There's 10 million tons of plastic dumped into the ocean every single year. That's the equivalent of an entire garbage truckload being dumped into the ocean every single minute, according to Plastics Oceans. Marine oceanologist Heather Hunt has been studying how humans have an impact on the ocean and how we and the ocean are interconnected.
We are having effects on the ocean by having effects on the Earth's climate, and so we're just hugely interconnected with the ocean. And I think sometimes we forget that, just how much of an impact we have on the ocean, how much of an impact the ocean has on us. I guess I've always been interested in ecology, that was just, and biology, ever since I was little. I think the reason why I ended up in marine biology rather than some other, working on freshwater or forests or something like that was probably because we spent time in the summers in Nova Scotia visiting my grandparents and going, spending time in a cottage on the beach and, picking up invertebrates and carrying them around in buckets and that sort of thing. And so that just intrigued me. And then when I was 16, I did a 1-week course for high school students at the Huntsman Marine Science Center in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. And that was just really cool. At the end of the week, I came home and told my parents I'm becoming a marine biologist. And they were like, okay. That's actually how it happens. You do a particular piece of research, you always end up with answers in some cases that are unexpected, right? And new questions, right? You always end up with more questions at the end than you had when you started, right? So it's just always, always something new to look at, which I think is always fun. And I just find the ocean such a cool system. It's just beautiful and kind of mysterious, and lots of interesting things about it. And actually working on microplastics is a fairly new topic for me as well. I just sort of ended up working on that because of my interest in human impacts and in benthic invertebrates like clams. So it sort of ended up because of an interest of a grad student of mine, Krista, that we ended up going in that direction.
I had a chance to sit down with Kristin Beardy, a microplastics researcher from the University of New Brunswick. She's currently working on a project that studies how microplastics enter the ocean and exactly what impact they have on different species.
I spent about 12 years being a sea kayak guide and instructor in Nova Scotia. And so I got firsthand experience seeing exactly what's going on with the Atlantic Ocean in particular. And it didn't take too long before I started making a game out of my tours and my classes and seeing how much garbage we could pick up and bring back to us. The problem was just that bad that I really became interested in the prevention of marine pollution.
There are sections in the ocean where different plastics and waste accumulate to make what is known as a garbage patch. These garbage patches are able to successfully accumulate because plastic is not biodegradable, and over time, those plastics simply break down into tiny pieces known as microplastics.
So I know they have figured out, because of ocean currents, is that essentially in the way that things circulate, that sort of more visible plastics have kind of accumulated in certain parts of the ocean, and so that you can, in certain areas you can actually see these patches of plastics sort of have kind of accumulated in those areas. Since then, I think people have gotten interested in microplastics and realizing that it's not just those bigger visible pieces of plastic that are in the ocean.
Right now I'm finding microplastics pretty much in all samples, bivalves, sediment, and water samples. I've also done some plankton samples with another agency. And like when you look at zooplankton, I find their appendages are all tangled up sometimes in fibers. We get a lot of fibers here. And that can affect their ability to swim, which affects their ability to feed. It also affects their ability to find their prey. So that's not good. And of course, that's the main staple diet of a lot of our whales here as well. So if you have all of your plankton populations in trouble, then it doesn't take too long for that to translate up the food chain.
So the ocean has those sort of big climate impacts on the whole planet, as well as being a major source of food for many people on the planet. So you might be living very far from the ocean, but then going to the grocery store and buying fish that are coming, from various different places in the ocean. So I think there is a big connection, even if you're not seeing it because you're living further away from it.
It's really hard right now to clean up what is out there, especially in the microplastic perspective. So what we have to do is stop making things worse. Like the ocean can't heal itself if we give it some time. I almost want to put in like an example, like with the air pollution, when COVID hit, all of a sudden everyone's staying home. There's no vehicular traffic. There's a lot less air pollution because there's a lot less source. That's kind of what we have to do. We have to look at alternatives in every facet of life.
After speaking to Heather and Krista about their ongoing research of how humans impact the ocean, our effects can be seen through tiny